Here to the thing, I'll answer to you.
This is 5 Minutes with Jeremy Hofmeister McLynn, who is the Digital Creative Director at Start JudgeGill. Hi Jeremy.
Hello.
Can you give us a quick summary of your career to date?
Yeah, I wrote my CV again not that long ago, so...
You should remember it.
What's that?
You should remember it then.
Yeah, about 15 years in the sort of design interaction side of things. Started off, didn't really know what I was going to get into. Nobody would have me after college. Tried to get into News International to do some editorial design. They said, forget it. But it was the first ISP that they had between BT and News International. So I said I'd go off and learn HTML in 6 weeks. Never learnt it. And that was the first kind of little bit of digital design work that I did. Then got bored with that.
What year was this roughly?
1965 or something.
Okay.
A long time ago. And then I was part of a little group called Haddock, a little online community, and met up with a lot of the guys who were sort of in Wired magazine at the time, and Online Magic, and a number of different agencies. And then I met Mike Bennett, who was at Sunbather, who started off Sunbather, and that was one of the few kind of integrated agencies that did digital and exhibition and brand. And so he sort of like threw me a line, and so I worked there for a couple of years. And then they got acquired by Razorfish, who sort of grew massively over a very short period of time.
Since early 2000s.
Yeah. So I think that they had brought CHBI, and then Sunbather kind of like merged into that. And I was with them for a few years. Did a bit of work in London, did a bit of work in Milan and San Francisco and a few other different offices, which is great. Went to Burning Man, which is cool. And then after that, the whole thing died. So I got out while I could, while most of my fellow designers at the time worked in pubs. And did a bit of a world trip. Came back, did a startup, that failed, freelanced for loads of years, did a few stints in Imagination, kind of like testing the water with them, bit of time with Moving Brands, which was brilliant, bit of time with Poke, which was great, and kind of just sort of danced around the houses a little bit. But during that time I also went into marketing agencies and advertising agencies, and wasn't too sure about whether digital was as tactile as I wanted it to be. And then after a bit of sort of doing my own personal identity work and working a lot with the Aram Gallery and stuff like that, that was a really great way to get more tactile design work in there in art direction. But finally, after a few more startups that didn't work out, I then took a full-time job with Imagination about 2.5, 3 years ago, and helped to creatively direct that department, the digital department, for a little bit. And then I think we were talking about it earlier, actually, just a bit of a new thing that they had done at the time. Each of the sort of main clients had creative directors, but they'd always been from product or architecture backgrounds. And so they sort of went out on a limb and said, well, why don't we get a digital creative director to take over the Shell client at the time. And they were doing really, really progressive work, so I thought, you know, a very corporate client, but if it gives you the opportunity to work across brand and 3D and retail and digital, then there's a really interesting sort of like merge of things going on there. So I did that for about 18 months, and then I just got a bit bored with sort of like designing all these wonderful things, but not an awful lot of it really seeing the light of day from a consumer's point of view. And so Liz Civil, who's one of the ECDs here, we ended up sort of stalking each other, and we ended up having a few chats, and so now I'm here, and I'm a very happy little chappy at the moment, because there's a lot more work that's consumer facing. It's a company that has lots of very, very strong characters at a high level, but they managed to sort of like merge those things really, really well and work together creatively brilliantly, so that's good.
Is Hofmeister your real name?
It is true that Hofmeister is my real name. The myth will be dispelled. It's my wife's family name, so it would have been the end of the Hofmeisters. And so yeah, when we get married, I decided to take that on. And so it's probably one of the officially longest creative director names in London anyway.
Try and get that on the back of a football shirt.
Exactly, or into my real name's never used in emails. Business card's not large enough.
Yeah.
Yada yada yada. Yeah. So that's the facts.
What are your interests outside of work?
It's kind of weird because over the last couple of years, I've had two babies. Well, one boy who's now a couple of years old, and a new baby who's just a couple of months old. So that's kind of my interests outside work have kind of dissolved or become a bit more focused on them. But I suppose in sort of somewhere lurking in the background, I'm really interested in not just sort of I don't just sort of like live what I do in work. I'm much more interested in creativity I think generally in a more integrated kind of way. So I really like looking at architecture and really like going out and spending a lot of time in different environments rather than always sort of like just doing the same thing all the time.
Who inspires you creatively?
I got a very close friend who I suppose he inspires me creatively because he's much more interested in the development of and the process of designing rather than always sort of like looking at the product at the end and fanfaring that. A guy called Daniel Charney. And I worked with him a lot at the Arm Gallery, and he sort of like taught me quite a bit about the idea that it's about getting there, not just about the end result. And I think that sort of applies a lot to our sort of like general day-to-day work as well. It's kind of if you put so much importance into the deliverable, then you kind of take away some of the joy of doing the job. And moving brands, who I did a little bit of work with years ago, I think that they got that idea really, really well, and they used that as a really good way of explaining process to their clients, and that the clients, in many ways, as I'm sure they still do, buy into the relationship and the way that they work with them, rather than just what is the logo going to look like at the end. It's important to them how they got there. So Daniel kind of like kicked that off for me, and that's something that I try to keep as part of my working mantra, I suppose.
What if someone was interviewing with you, or when people interview with you, what do you look for in good designers or creatives?
Well, I suppose going back to the previous thing about process, I'm still a sucker for what it looks like at the end. So that's why there was a bit of a battle or sort of like over beer discussions about it, because I still really like it to look really polished and really refined. So that level of finish is really important and really interesting to me.
What does it take for someone to get hired to work with you?
I also really need to like them as a person. That's one of the irritating things, I suppose, for people always coming into presentations or for jobs with a new company, that you can have the best work in the world, but you won't always get hired because of the rapport. And so I think that whole relationship building is an important part of it. But ultimately, it comes out of just being who you are in a presentation. So if you present yourself genuinely, and if you have good work, well, then that's a tick for me. But it is subjective. It comes down to whether I'll have to gel with the person for us to work together, I suppose.
What key factors do you think led you to being promoted to the level that you are at now?
A little bit of what I just mentioned about being. I think I find it fairly easy to get on with people at lots of different levels. So from management down to people who are just starting off, and I think that because I gave people space or gave people a little bit more time, then that's sort of like something that's helped me get on with it. And also, I think that as well as that, I didn't limit myself to being a specialist. And actually, that was one of the things that's me personally. I think that it would have felt limiting if I just wanted to be one very, very specific thing. So I didn't just want to be a typographer. and I didn't want to just be a flash animator or an animator. I wanted to be well, actually at the time I didn't really know. But I think what's come out of it is that by being a bit more malleable, you kind of, I think in my position is it's almost like it's happened by chance really. So I didn't come out of college thinking I wanted to be an art director or a creative director, but I think I was just interested in lots of different stuff. I wasn't interested in just one thing.
So a mixture of interest, talent, luck, and
quite a
good timing.
Quite a lot of luck, and seriously, quite a lot of it was. I'm probably doing myself a disservice by saying luck, but I think quite a lot of it came for quite a few years. I ended up getting work with people just based on conversations.
So just putting yourself out there, meeting people, talking to people.
Yeah, and not being really overt about it as well. Not blatantly networking or anything like that, but just by going out and having a good time. But
just getting on with people.
You ended up meeting people, and I think by not doing a hard sell and just by having a person or like a one-to-one chat or a very open and genuine discussion with somebody, I think that can open a lot of doors.
Okay, one more question before we move on to a quick fire round.
Okay.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career?
Don't want to sound too boring here. Biggest risk. Probably two, and they're probably in the same project. And it was one of the most, it's still my kind of king project that I worked on. It was for an agency called Contra, who were traditionally a kind of business-to-business agency below the line.
Yep.
And they got an offer to create a promotion for Nokia to help promote some of their handsets in the world of snowboarding and sort of like that kind of lifestyle. And so I got asked to come in to help with the pitch. They got the pitch, but the initial idea was that they would just do the event. And then, without naming any other agencies who lost the work, we ended up getting pretty much the whole lot. So we got the event, we got the branding, we got the Weatherline advertising, we shot on location in Chile, we created a film, we did all the print ads, and we did an event and radio, all sorts of stuff. And we did it all over Europe, so there are about 30 locations around Europe where this happened. So that was an amazing project, done with a really, really small team of people. So it was myself and two lead designers, and then obviously everybody sort of managing all the logistics of it around that. And the really interesting thing about that was that because of the technology aspect of Nokia and them wanting to be seen as being innovators, I worked with a number of people. I pulled in people who just graduated from the Royal College, who I thought ticked the box as far as what we were looking for. That was a big risk to bring in people who hadn't worked in the industry before, who were brilliantly talented but hadn't always had to deliver on that sort of scale with that sort of a client. So that was a major kind of, and there was a lot of squeaky bum moments, I think, during that. But then at the other time as well, I worked, just to balance that out, worked with This Is Real Art on this project, and Matt Pike came into the mix, and he, not surprisingly, sort of put everybody's fears to bed by coming up with some brilliant mobile work for that. So that was one of the biggest risks from a sort of a delivery point of view. One of the most scary and risky situations I was in was still in that project, and it was on one of the first agency presentations that I went into for that. And I had the day I arrived, they gave me a deck, and they said, "We'll go and we'll do a presentation at this agency tomorrow. There'll just be a couple of people there. Just have a read of this beforehand, and it'll be fine." And I walked into the presentation completely unprepared for it, and they put me on the spot and said, "So what are we going to do with the job?" And so after having sort of about 3 minutes of feeling as if the world was imploding on me, and having some brilliant people in the room who were all, rather than saying next, they kind of said, and teased it out of me, and so after a couple of minutes it just then happened, and we sort of like got through the meeting, and that was brilliant. But I think I still remember that moment, and I still get really jittery and kind of like anxious even talking about it. But that, I think that it still stays with me, that you can't, you have to be prepared for situations like that, and you have to do your homework before you go into stuff. And if you don't feel as if you've got all the facts, then at least tell somebody, or just run away. Don't bloody do it, because it's bloody scary.
Okay, let's move on to a quick fire round.
Okay.
FWA or NMA?
Neither.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like both, but I still think D&AD.
Digital design or graphic design?
Digital.
Creatives or suits?
What to get rid of or hold on to?
However you interpret the question.
Okay, well, I'd say my love is with creatives, not with suits.
Apple or Android?
Even though I use Apple products all the time, Android, because I don't believe in Apple's ethics.
Degree or no degree?
Don't mind.
Retained work or pitch work?
Again, it depends, but if it's quick fire, let's just say, I would say retained work.
Web or mobile?
Both.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Definitely independent.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
On-site.
What?
That comes from experience as well. I've seen things go really wrong. Anyway.
Miami Ad School or Hyper Island?
Hyper Island.
Watford or Bucks? And lastly, Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
I'm going to sit on the fence on that one.
Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.